during the month of Ramadan. Many Muslims will tell you that to restrain oneself from frivolous conversation, from staying away from gossip and these types of things, and also to restrain oneself from being angry and acting off of anger, this may be the harder part of the fast, of restraining from anger and restraining from frivolous conversation and giving up food and water and sexual relations from dawn to dusk. The last of these 5 pillars is called Hajj. Hajj means pilgrimage. And the pilgrimage is that every Muslim who reaches the age of puberty, at least once in a lifetime if they can afford it, must make a 5-day pilgrimage to the city of Mecca on the 12th lunar month of the Islamic calendar, called Dhul Hijjah. Dhul Hijjah is the 12th month on the Islamic calendar, in which a series of rituals take place for this 5 days, centered primarily around 3 biblical characters. There are also, the rituals are also alluded to and discussed in the Quran. These 3 biblical characters are Abraham, his wife, or his mate, according to Islamic tradition, Hajar or Hagar, and their son Ismail or Ishmael. So this is, the Hajj is retracing the steps of when Sarah and Abraham and Ishmael, when Abraham was given the command for them to leave from their location from where they were at and go into the wilderness, to the desert area of Mecca, and there are certain rituals that are imitated based upon that story that's given in the Bible as well as alluded to in the Quran. These are the 5 basic pillars of Islam. Anyone who believes in these things that I told you, even if they don't practice all of these, if they believe in them, even though they don't practice all of them, then they are in fact a Muslim. Anyone who denies any of these 5 pillars, even if they call themselves a Muslim, they're not a Muslim. Islam has certain parameters, there's certain guidelines. And these are those guidelines that I mentioned within those 7 articles of faith in these 5 principles, those 12 things that I mentioned. Now, I said also I would address what is the difference between a Sunni and a Shi'i, or Sunnah and Shia. And I believe you asked this question when I was over there, and we've heard a lot about Sunni and Shia since the invasion of Iraq after the toppling of the government of Saddam Hussein and sectarian violence that took place in Iraq. This has been a big thing in the news, although it's died down in the news the last couple of years. During the time of Muhammad, the last prophet of Islam, there was no such thing called Sunni and there was no such thing called Shi'i. These titles did not exist in any sense of the word. What happened was Muhammad the prophet died. And when he died, according to the majority belief of Muslims who call themselves Sunnis, they believe that Prophet Muhammad did not explicitly designate any one person to be his spiritual and temporal successor. So Muhammad was the last prophet. Muslims don't worship Muhammad. But when any society, any community, you have to have a leader. There has to be leadership. So what the Sunnis believe is that after Muhammad the prophet died, there was a group of elders that came together in the city of Medina, modern-day Saudi Arabia, from different tribes, different people. And after a type of discussion, after several names were put forward about who should be the successor, called Khalifa, the Khalifa, the successor, there was a man by the name of Abu Bakr who was picked to be the first Khalifa. Whoever believes in this electoral college type of process would consider themselves a Sunni Muslim. A Shi'i or a Shia Muslim believes something a little different than this. They believe that God would not leave such a decision to the whims of men, because human beings can fall into nepotism and cronyism, and human beings can sin, and just because the majority of people pick someone to be the leader doesn't make that person the best leader. Like we voted in George Bush. Maybe I shouldn't get political, but there might be some Republicans here, excuse me. Or Barack. I don't like a lot of Barack Hussein Obama's policies either. But the point that I'm making is that the Shia Muslims say that God would not leave such things to the whims of men, and that God inspired Muhammad the Prophet to elect someone from his family by the name of Ali to be the successor, not just temporally, but also who had the spiritual authority of interpreting the Quran, not just its apparent meaning, but its deeper meaning or esoteric meaning. Whoever believes in this is called Shia. So that what Shia Muslims believe that after Prophet Muhammad died, that Ali was to have been the imam or the leader of the community, and that those people who took away Ali's right from being the first leader, they usurped his right, and they actually made a grave sin, and they basically ignored a clear instruction from Muhammad the Prophet. This is a very serious accusation to make. This is what the Shia Muslims believe. And many of the Shia Muslims, they venerate the family members of the Prophet, and they make smaller pilgrimages, or we can call it ziyarah, visitations to the graves of the Prophet Muhammad's family. And so this is what Shia do. But the majority of the Islam amongst Sunni and Shias is basically the same. Belief in one God. All have 5 daily prayers. All have the same Quran. All believe in the same last prophet, Muhammad. The things about paying the charity is belief. Making the same Hajj or same pilgrimage to Mecca. Fasting the same lunar month, the 9th month, Ramadan. These are all shared. So about 85% is basically the same between the Sunni and Shia. Most of the theological beliefs, there are some minor differences as far as practice. And predominantly the biggest difference is who has the authority to be the leader amongst the Muslims. So many people see Sunni and Shia as not really a religious difference, but a political difference. That's what many people would view it as. That's not my opinion, but that's what many people amongst the Muslim community view it as, not a theological difference per se, but a political difference. So that's the difference between Sunni and Shia. The Muslim world is about 85% Sunni. So it's the vast majority of the Muslim world. The Shia Muslims reside not all throughout the Muslim world, but primarily in certain countries, in certain areas of the world. Iran is majority Shia. You have Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Bahrain, Azerbaijan, and then you have some in the Gulf countries, in the Arabian Peninsula, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Yemen that are also Shias, and you will find some in India and Pakistan. Those are most of the Shias are at. You won't find Shias in the southern part of Africa, really in the west part of Africa, or in the Balkan countries, in Bosnia and Albania and Russia, and these countries there really aren't Shia Muslims that reside there, or in China, etc. The next thing that I would like to discuss is those two terms, jihad and sharia. Jihad and sharia. So I will start with the term jihad first. Jihad in the Arabic language literally means exertion, or it means struggle. Like jahada means he exerted himself, or he struggled. This is what this term means. And according to Islamic scholars, there are three primary forms of jihad that we'll go through, that I will discuss.